This solutions walkthrough is based on Chapter 11, specifically looking at exercise 11.5b. My hope is that the walkthrough will help you with your assigned exercise, which is 11.5a. In this problem, we're being asked to compare the standard for direct materials with the actual and determine the total variance as well as the sub-variances. So let's look at the information that we have. It says that the standard cost of product B requires that they use 2 pounds of direct materials, which should be purchased at $4 per pound, to produce 1 unit of this particular product. During the month of June, 27,000 pounds of direct materials were purchased and used, and they paid $3.80 per pound for the material. So you can tell already that they did well with the price. Of course, we don't know about the quality of the material, but we know that they paid less than the standard. We're being asked to compute the total materials variance and then the components or sub-components of the materials variance, which would be the price variance and the quantity variance. What does that mean? It means that the materials variance can be due to either the price being different from the standard and or the quantity being different from the standard. One could be favorable, the other unfavorable, or both could be favorable or both could be unfavorable. To calculate your total materials variance, you are going to use this formula: actual quantity times actual price, subtract standard quantity times standard price. Based on the information given, 27,000 is the actual quantity, $3.80 is what they actually paid for the item, and so that gives us a total cost of $102,600. That's what they actually paid. What should they have paid? They should have used 26,000 pounds and they should have purchased them at $4 per pound, and so the total cost for materials should have been $104,000. You can see that they saved $1,400 because they ended up paying less overall for the item. So they have an overall variance or materials variance of $1,400. The question now is that because of the price entirely, or is it because of the price and the quantity? We will know that once we compute the sub-variances, which would be the price variance and the quantity variance. The price variance is going to tell us how much the variance was caused by the price being different from the standard, the actual price. So our calculation is actual quantity times actual price, and we subtract the actual quantity times the standard price. So 27,000 times the $3.80, and then we subtract from that 27,000 times $4. You can see that we end up with a favorable situation here because the difference based on the price is what we actually paid, $102, versus what we should have paid, $108. And so we have a favorable difference there of $5,400. Another way that you could have done this is you could have used this equation. It's the same, just algebraically. You notice that in this particular formula, actual quantity appears here and actual quantity appears here. So it's common to both. So we could take that out and then find the difference between the actual price and the standard price, and we would get the same answer. So if I were to do it that way, it would be 27,000, which is the actual quantity. And then the thing I like about this formula, or setting the formula up this way, is right away I can see that my actual price is less than my standard price, so I know that my answer is going to be favorable. And in this case it is 5,400. Then we look at the quantity variance to see what amount was caused by a difference between what should have been used versus what was actually used. And for that, you take the actual quantity times the standard price, and then subtract from that the standard quantity times the standard price. And so plugging our numbers in, 27,000 actual quantity, $4 actual price. This is what we should have paid based on the amount of material that we used. Here we have 26,000, which is the standard quantity multiplied by the standard price. And so we should have used 26,000 pounds and we should have paid $4. And so you can see we end up with an unfavorable situation here caused by the quantity. Again, if you prefer, you can have it such that you take the standard price and multiply it by the difference between the actual quantity and the standard quantity. Actual quantity is 27,000. The standard quantity is 26, so that's a $1,000 difference. We actually used more material than we were supposed to. And so we then multiply by the standard price of $4 and you would get 4,000. The unfavorable plus the favorable 5,400 gives us a net favorable, which we calculated originally of 1,400. Think of the favorable as a positive number and the unfavorable as a negative. So we have a positive 5,400, a negative 4,000. So we end up with an overall total variance of 1,400. But this is telling us that the main benefit that was derived was from the price, because the materials, we use more material than we were supposed to. And of course, management would have to investigate this to determine what factors contributed to the materials being used, more materials being used than we should. Was it because we bought cheap material, so we had to use more of it? Was it because we had inexperienced workers, so they ended up using more material? Maybe some of it went to waste. These are the kinds of questions that we need to be asked and answered as part of the analysis. In part B, we have the same problem with different values. Here again, they give us the actual price that we paid, $4.20, as opposed to what we should have paid of $4, and the quantity that we purchased and used was 25,200. And so you would go through the same calculations as we did before. Actual quantity times the actual price, standard quantity times standard price, and notice that the actual is in this case greater than the standard, and so the difference of 1840 is considered to be unfavorable. And then we do the sub-variances, price and quantity. Notice that we end up with an unfavorable price variance of $5,040. So we paid quite a bit more than we were supposed to, $4.20 versus $4. And on the material side, we actually did quite well. We had 25,200 pounds that were used when we should have used 26. So we ended up with a favorable quantity variance of 3,200. Again, because the material purchased are equal to the materials used, we can compute the sum of the sub-variances will be equal to the total variance. And so 5,040, which is unfavorable, so that's a negative, plus 3,200 will give us an overall negative of 1,840. Quickly wrapping this up, I just wanted to show you that for the direct labor, the process would be the same. And so the total labor variance would be actual hours times actual rate minus standard hours multiplied by standard rate. The labor price variance, which is analogous to the materials price variance, Some people would refer to this as the labor rate variance. So I could change that to labor rate variance is actual hours, and you then multiply by the difference between the actual rate and the standard rate. To get your labor quantity variance, you take the standard rate and multiply by the difference between the actual hours and the standard hours. Same interpretation. It will be either favorable or unfavorable depending on whether the actual exceeds the standard. And finally, the overhead, you will only have one variance to calculate here, which is your total overhead variance. And for that, you would take your actual overhead and subtract your overhead applied at the standard rate allowed. The difference between those two will either be favorable or unfavorable.